Test, test, test. All right. Good morning, everybody. Happy Sunday. Today, we are going to be talking about just the market overall. We're going to take a look at sectors, going to take a look at the indexes and specific holdings that are setting up new signals into the new month. And with the recent release of the broadening information video that kind of dived into how Rob found the broadening information, then has Rob explaining it towards the end. If you haven't watched it, I suggest watching that. Most recent video on my channel, but we're also going to be looking at monthly broadening informations from the outside months setting up into the new month. And if you are on the email list, I'm going to be setting all of that out hopefully today as well. That being said, though, we're always going to start with the indexes. So SPY, obviously we had the nice pukage 322 and then PMG. They did gap it, but puked. And you'll see they reconfirmed, and this is how we knew about this, the 2-2 week last week. So when that occurred, we knew we had a magnitude down here, which they still have not taken out yet, but they're working on it. They're a lot closer now to doing that, so that's a problem. And the reason we knew about that follow through is this. So IWM went 3-2-2 last week, and it has not reversed that, which means it's still trying to go take out this stuff. Obviously, we got an inside week, so we'll be closer to confirming that. But we also saw Dow Jones 3-2-2. So you can see we had a simultaneous reversal, Dow Jones, SPY, and IWM on the weekly the week prior. And Dow Jones has finished off its magnitude, and you'll see that completes this broadening formation here. And we're still closer to, sorry, let me remove some of this stuff, but we're still closer to going down next week across most of this stuff. And if we go to the Qs, how'd you know for the outside week? Well, last week was a 3. You'll see it close doji, which means they tried to sell it down, try to buy it up, and no one won, right? Closing back in the range. And then the new week opens, pokes up, they tried to buy it up, and then they went and came and sold it down. And you'll see on a daily how that looks. You'll have the poke up, the poke down. They try to poke up, poke down again, poke up, 3-1-2 reversal down in here, and then puke right into its target, and then inside day, just like the SPY. So going into the election, obviously we'll have that news, and that's going to come out. Hopefully this week we have a decision there. Ideally it'd be Tuesday night, but things have changed as of recent history. So we'll see. But you got inside day Qs, inside day SPY, then inside day IWM, all setting up for Monday. So we will see how that goes. And then Dow will be a shooter on the day. So they're all closer to going 2 back down on Monday. And that would be the second day of the month. That being said, so that's how we kind of figured we would be puking. Now, if we go to the monthlies, we set up 2-2 reversal Dow Jones, so closer to taking out last month's lows. This shooter by itself is not bearish. It is a bearish signal, but only if we are below 417.02. And if we are, what you'll notice is we have a 3 back in here. So if we can reclaim that 3, we're back into this broadening formation. And if we drop it down to a weekly, you'll see this a little bit clearer. You can see 3 poke down, poke up, right? And then subtrine here, another 3, and then expansion of that 3. And now we're going to be closer to coming back into that stuff. And I can't hear you. 1 second. Oh, on stream stage. Thank you, Tom. Our community stage. Yeah, I didn't have my headphones in. Sorry about that, community stage, guys. But we can go and show you this here. So if you go on the YouTube, you'll be able to watch that back, but we're not even into the thick of it yet. But you can see Dow Jones closer to the 2-2 month back down below 417.02. So as we come into the election, we're closer to reversal on the month. That is something we want to know about if we are below that. And then this 3 here, we would reclaim that when that month goes in force pretty much. So right about below, just below that monthly trigger. So that's something we want to know about. We don't have a weekly signal, but we'll have the daily to try and make that occur next week. And you'll notice we'd actually start reclaiming this 3 in here. We'd also start reclaiming that monthly 3 up in there, and we'd also reclaim this 3 back in here. So anywhere down in here, if we start bringing them back in, we want to know about that. If we go to the SPY, we're going to see SPY on the monthly. The same thing. You got the shooter month, and you're not going to see a 3 in here, but what you will see is the compound 3, where these 2 months went outside of these 2. So you get the poke down, the poke up, and then maybe a 2-2 month back down below this stuff. Get that, sorry. So 5, 6, 5, 2, 7 below that, we want to know about that because that'd be a very bad thing for the markets. And if we go to the Qs, Q's is also a slight shooter. You can see in this case, it's relatively weak as it was unable to make out those all-time highs, making lower highs. So in this case, we don't have a try we're trading back through on this time frame because you'll see the 2-2 month in here failed to make the new highs to this. If we go to the week though, you'll see this. So we're stuck inside this previous range, which means we have the broadening formation here, the slight lower lows, the slight higher highs, and then 3-3. And you'll notice they still haven't closed out of this, but below 48375, if we stay below that, right, it needs to stay down, then we get 3-2 expansion, pivot machine gun through all these guys. So that could be a problem. So all of these things are setting up closer to down, especially for Monday with the inside day. So we want to know about that. And since it's a new month, we will be aware of that. If we go to IDBM, it has that inside week, which we've already seen. And you'll see on the monthly, it's also, you don't have a 3 in here, but you'll see it's stuck inside this previous range. So the slight poke up, closer to 2-2 back down, a little bit more of an inside month here. And if we go drop it down to the weekly, you'll see the weekly try. There's a sub try and a major, and they're all internal to this range here. So they poke down in here, they poke up. You see just near miss in here, but now coming back in, you also have the sub try of this stuff in here. So below this next week, be closer to triggering the month, 217.63, and you'd have the daily inside bar to try and make that happen on Monday. So all of these are setting up. Now, that being said, we can take a look at the sectors. And normally what I do is I just pull up all the sector charts, which look something like this. But what I want to do is take all of this, and we're just going to go through one by one and take a look. So we can take a look at the VIX. You'll see VIX went inside day as well. If we go to the weekly, oops, got to zoom in there a little bit. But you will see they make the slight higher highs on the VIX. So we do have a broadening formation. You'll notice these 3 bars go outside of this bar. If we go to the month, the month closed inside last month. So we'd have VIX actionable signal if it stayed above 2342. And this would be if the volatility starts going, up with the market coming back in. And the VIX goes up when you have full time frame continuity down across the indexes. So anytime we're below the month, the week, day, and 60 opens next month on indexes, we might have some issues. And if we're above them, then things are going to try and firm up and recover. But the VIX, if that stuff starts coming back in, should explode. Above 2342 is what we'd want to see. And at this point, since it's going into these recent highs, I'd like to see them stop some guys out first. If we go to UVXY, it's going to be the same thing. You can see the hammer day into Monday. So seeing similar there. If we go to the Dixie, which is your dollar index, what we'll see is we did have the nice RevStrat quarter getting closer to last year's lows, but they firmed up on the new quarter, going inside in green, changing continuity. So we drop it down to a weekly time frame. You'll see the triangle in here, and it's also going to be internal to last year's range, still an inside year. So we're working with something like this. And you can see it's a lot bigger, so that's why we're getting bigger moves in here. And we don't have too much to talk about. We're right in the middle of it. So we'll see if that starts moving on the new election. You see it when 2-2 month hit its monthly target. So there's still full time frame continuity back through range there. If we go to gold, this has been a doozy this year. And you're going to see on the yearly, still 1312, as mentioned. We posted on Twitter. I believe we had it in one of the macro videos as well with the quarterly signals in gold. But you'll see inside up still going. So we have the rest of the year to go after that still. The month last month, no actionable signal. They've just been gunning. But you can see how they take the year up with the monthly RevStrat. And then in here, you don't have to be the first one in. Inside month and up, still good. And then momentum hammer month, still good, going up as well. And if we drop it down into the dailies here, you can see they're just doing some profit taking as we came into the new month here. And the broadening formation that we had previously traded back through was something like this. And you can see they went into expansion. Now we've got something like this we're working with. So we'll see if they get triangle out and then start going again. But no signals in there for us. You'll see the shooter week. So closer to coming back into the new week. Tells us we can look to the miners as well, which you can see went 2 down on the week. So they're a little bit weaker. If we go to the month, you see slight shooter month. So closer to going 2-2 back down, but they still got some distance. And the quarter, you'll see finishes off some of that quarterly broadening formation in here and pulls back in a little bit, but still a 2 up. So we'd prefer buys, but they're changing continuity. We can also look to silver, and it's going to be very similar. You can see this quarter, we have inside quarter actionable signal silver, which they're right at 29.46. So if they're going to still be bullish in this stuff, we'd like to see them stay above that. But for now, you can see they're reclaiming some of this stuff, still closer to going down as we go into the new week. You've got some daily try to work with in here, but no actionable signals as we get there into the new month. If we go to the semiconductors, semis, much like the Qs, too weak to make out the new highs. So a little bit of problems there. Still chopping them up in here, but closer to a 2-2 back down on the month. And on the week, you'll see a 3. It went 3-1-3, and it did resolve lower, closing slightly outside of last week's range. So closer to confirming to the downside, and you will see the weekly try. Poke up, poke down, poke up. 3-2 down, could get it puking back down. And we'll always be aware whenever we see a 3, if it breaks down and then reclaims it, it could go 3 again, right? So it needs to stay below that stuff if it's going to get the puke on. And you can also see on the daily, the inside day, just like the rest of the market. So we'll know to be looking at semis. We can bring the tech in here as well. Looks like tech did not go inside day, but looking very similar to the rest of the market. And you're going to see the big old 3 on the week. So a lot of 3s last week, which show aggression. Now, the question is, you can see tech resolves lower. So below 222.16 would be expansion of the 3 going down. If that occurs, it would also be 2-2 month back down. So we're not far from a simultaneous monthly break, as we're starting to see here across all the tech and semis. Now into communications. Communications did go 3-2 up last week, but it comes back in with some exhaustion. So they could become 2-2 if things were weaker. And they got the inside day down if they're going to start bringing it back in. You can see on the daily try, they're starting to reclaim some of this stuff to try and bring them back through pivot machine gun of these guys if they can start working their way down. And at this point on the quarter, you can see they're still 2ing it up. So you'd have to change that. On the quarter, we are into exhaustion risk, so we're going to be aware of that. If we go to discretionary, you'll see discretionary had the outside quarter last quarter, so that is a 3, right? We've reclaimed that very slightly. So our broadening formation looks something like this. It's still 2 up, still doji. But you'll notice 3, 2 up, slightly red. So it's not actionable signal, but 2 up and red. And then the shooter day. So you'll notice these 2 daily bars outside of this. So if this went 222, it would take last week's lows. And on the daily, you actually have a pretty big try in here. You'll see like this. So you'll notice how they get stuck inside, chop, 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 really small. And then you'll see they poke up and then poke down, poke back up. And now we'd like to see it poke down, right? If that 2-2 day starts bringing them in Monday, it's not going to be closest to last week's lows, which is what we'd prefer, but closer to coming back in with the rest of the market. If we go to financials, you'll also see the inside day. We have a nice daily broadening formation in here. Notice stuck inside 3, stuck inside, poke up, reclaim, 2-2, and then hits the lows, and then 2-1-2 would reconfirm that, which would cause expansion. And this one's still not, anywhere close to taking last month's lows, but we do have a 3 last month, or actually a couple months ago, that could be reclaimed, but that one's still going to be a little stronger than the rest of the market. In the materials sector, we can see it's already taken last month's lows, so that gives us a little hint that materials are slightly weaker. And we did see gold is starting to come back just a little bit, no monthly reversals there. And you'll see they reversed last week and then followed through, or actually 2 weeks ago, and then followed through last week, like we saw with the rest of the market. So materials is going to be relatively slightly weak. And notice on the quarter, 3, 2 up, and you see it does it by a few pennies, then back in. So on materials, we'd be looking to come back into 8641. And then you also have the major try, which is going to look something like this on the monthly or on the quarterly. And if we zoom all the way out, we do have some bigger ones in there that you can see expanding out of at this point, but here's your big quarterly try. So we want to know about that. If we go to real estates, you can see change in quarterly continuity after going into recent highs. So you can see high, lower, low, and there's also 3-3, right? Then new highs off the Rev Strat quarter, and then they're bringing it back in a little bit. Go to the month. You can see they actually reversed last month. So this is going to be relatively weak as it was already going down, and now it's reconfirming. So if the market starts puking, real estates could be that guy. And you can see on Friday, whole market was holding up and this one was going down. So a little bit of problems in there. If we open up the daily, you will see daily exhaustion risk. So we wouldn't want to short it into these new lows, but here's your daily try. So you want to get out of this try, right? Make things expand. And we got no signals for next week. We already talked technology, biotechs. So biotechs, you can see if the market were to firm up, biotechs is actually closer to inside week up actionable signal. Now, does not mean it has to go up. What it does mean though is, if the whole market starts firming up, this would be the strongest one and be closest to reversing the week 2-on-2 reversal, closest to a 2-2 reversal month as well. And you can see it starts off pretty green. Now, let's say next week the market, starts going inside day again, and we do see this breakout. If it comes back in and the rest of the market starts taking last week's lows, this will go 3, right? So we're not going to say it has to go up, but we can identify relative strength. The staples, this is something we mentioned on Twitter. You'll see the shooter month from all-time highs, actionable signal. If we blow it up here, you can see the big staples try. So the poke down, the hammer month, which was mentioned way back in 23, at the end of 2023, and then all the way to the other side of the range. And then shooter month to time the top of the range, and they're starting to bring it back in. So already has been going down. It's a matter of, does that follow through? And if you've been following Twitter, Hershey's was one that we talked about with the 3-2 on the month. There's also Coca-Cola, which is the strongest or biggest holding in there, and Coca-Cola is getting murdered. So like Rob would say, you don't have to be the one that times the top, right? If you didn't get it, that's fine. But now you want to be the one that knows where's it going, right? You can draw this out. So it's trying to go down there as long as we got full time frame continuity. So we definitely want to know about things like Coca-Cola, and we will get into specific tickers once we get through all the indexes and sectors here. But if we go to regional banks, we're going to see they haven't noticed higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows. So most people will say there's no broadening formation here. The biggest thing you have to understand is there will be, right? So in this case, you'll see the lower low, the higher high, and it's making higher lows and trending up at this point. But now they've made higher highs on the month and they've started reclaiming, right? You can see 2 months inside, poke up, and then starts reclaiming with the change in continuity. And for next week, it would be a rev strat week from the new high. So if that works out, we'd start coming back through all these guys. That would be an issue for the financials. And there's no daily signals or anything in there. And that's specifically regional banks, which is things like WAL, Western Alliance. Yeah, Western Alliance Bank. Which you can see has some shooter stuff, and we'll get into it. It's going to be a longer stream today. And if you don't have the time for the stream today, don't worry. We're going to keep a list of everything, and we'll have it in the macro video. It's more of the macro stream. We're also going to see the banking ETF looking similar. 2 months inside of this, then they poke up and they start reclaiming it. The change in monthly continuity up there, that could turn into problems. If we go to the week, also not rev strat, but shooter actionable week, pivot machine gun, back through those guys potentially. And then financials, we already talked about, you got that try, but double inside, or actually 2 weeks inside pattern to that, which again, still not as close to last month's lows. So when we compare all of those, they're not as close to taking it out, but we will see. And we talked about biotechs. I'm not sure if we talked healthcares. So you'll see in the healthcares, they have some 3s back in here, broadening information. They poke up and now they start reclaiming some of this with that new quarter continuity with the 2-2 last month. So it'd be closer to following through on that. We've got no weekly signals or anything to go after. They got the daily rev strat setting up. So that could turn into problems to try and take the quarters down, rev strat quarter. If we go to energies, this is one I've really been, let down by this year, as we have been unable to take the yearly signals in force. But you're going to see they're chopping them up, right? So poke up, poke down, attempts to poke up, slight higher high, then back down, and closer to shooter month back down. And they did not take last quarter's high, so you can see they're just still chopping these guys up. We can see they're reclaiming a 3 here, so they're still trying to take these lows out. The fail to reverse that quarter. And on the weekly this week, you'll see the broadening formation here, the poke up, the poke down, poke up again, and then shooter, momentum shooter week. So trying to come back in. Tells us to look at OIH, same type of thing. It's momentum shoot. Go on the month, closer to monthly, shooter back down. Should be simultaneous break in the energies. And what we can notice is if energies are going to explode, and we know one of the candidates is running on that, what we can see is they've had no lower lows in here, right? There's a slight lower low back in here, and that's kind of it when we're looking at the bigger trend of things. So if we're going to stop out some of these guys or these guys down in here, that monthly would do it first, and then this try would get a lot bigger because we could have something along the lines of this, right? It's going to be bearish down into this stuff, and then we'll have to see, but it's closer to finally getting that lower low for them. If we go to XOP, you're also going to see this. So the slight higher highs in here, slight lower lows. So they come back off the highs, attempt to firm it back up with this sub trine here. Failed to do so, shooter month back down. So same thing, they're trying to go and take these guys out. And I would still prefer energies, you know, get the nice rally, because when we go to XOP and we really zoom things out, it's been a lot higher, right? So I'd prefer to see that lower low and then bring them back. Let's switch to the quarter here. So you can see we make higher highs, lower lows, right to left, and then they start bringing it back in. Now they chop them up, right? So what we're looking for is we want to see, you know, this range is like very, very tiny. We want to see them poke down and then get going again if they're really going to come back. And it has been a lot higher. So that can be a trade we're looking for on like a macro basis, but it's just not playing out yet. If we go to the yearly and XOP, you can see it's rev stratting this. So they're trying to go outside year first, which is down in here. 114.16, and then maybe we can get a recovery from that. We'll have to see. Last few sectors in here, we got retail, which is the closest to negating the year open if things do start puking, and it would be rev strat month 122 below this stuff, 74.06. And if it does that, the yearly open is 71.8. So you can see the yearly open down here. We would take that out with the rev strat month magnitude. And there's no weekly signals or anything. They've been kind of a chop fest. You can see the shooter day, much like everything else. So just lots and lots of shooters for next week, at least Monday. And if we go to the airlines are some of the only things that are not coming back in. So this is where we'd identify natural buying at this point still. As far as this month is concerned, 2 up again this month, right? So airlines, along with some of those biotechs being relatively strong, you can see the 322 and they're gone, still going 2 on the week. These are still going to be relatively much stronger. And if we get to the yearlies in here and jets, you can see their mother bar still to this stuff. So we're still not out of that, but got some yearly magnitude, and we'll have to see. If we go to now the big cappers, Apple. So much like the Qs, Apple, you can see these three bars outside of this stuff with a slight higher high to all-time highs. So it's going to look weird on this chart, but that's a 3. If you go to the week, you'll see this a little bit clearer. Poke up, poke down, poke up, and you'll notice how they reclaim all these highs in here. So Apple still going to have some issues. And that one's 2 down on Friday, which shows some relative weakness. We go to Microsoft. Microsoft gives you the inside day, and you'll see closer to the inside month down. And once we get into the single stocks, what we'll notice is everything that's 2-2 month, when compared to inside months, the inside months will be relatively weak. So Microsoft would be an example of that. And they have the inside day to try and break that to start the new month prior to the election, which again is still kind of a wild card, right? But you can see something like this. So they'd be trying to get that expansion going with the new month. If we go to NVIDIA. NVIDIA also inside day, and this try did get a lot bigger as of recent. If we go quickly to the quarter, so you can see the quarter, we reclaim the quarter signal. So that is the first sign that, hey, potentially that could go outside if things do come back in. And the month, we're nowhere near 2-2 month down, which would be a rev strat, but we'd have to do that next, right? And on the week, we don't have signals here, but just the daily. So we'll keep an eye on that. because you'll notice when they go up and start reclaiming back into stuff, that's when we start stopping guys out. So if we can reclaim all these highs, if we draw off the left side of the chart, see, once we start reclaiming all these highs, that's when we might start getting some bigger problems, which they're not doing yet, but they did reverse last week. If we go to Google, Google obviously had earnings, and you got the gap up sell, puke. So when you go to the week, a little bit of a shooter, it might go inside. On the month, it would be a 222. If they start reversing it, they're still nowhere near it. And on the year, this is still a 312 up. So they're not reclaiming that, but they are taking their profit as we get towards the end of the year from the looks of it. If we look at Adobe, it's a potential outside year. No monthly signals, nothing. And the week's kind of just grinding down into the bottom of this try, so nothing to really write home about in here yet, but you got this. So that's kind of the gist here. Let me see what the other chips are looking like. You can see TSM just nowhere near reversing back in. AMD already a 2-month down, so that's a little bit worse off. Excuse me, I'm gonna have to get some water. And AMD, so for example, when the chips, if they start coming back in with those 2 months, with the tech and the Qs and the SPY and the Dow Jones, we want to go after things below the yearly open. And AMD is a good example of that, because you'll notice they're reclaiming the inside year. So that's potential rev strat to 60, right? And that's a big problem if that starts playing out. And anyone that bought this year in AMD, now they're underwater, right? So that's a problem for those guys. And since we have the 2-month this month, we got all month, try and go after that to get that yearly puking and get this 3. You can see the outside month here. We want to get out of that, right, and get that thing expanding. So as we get into the chips and single stock stuff, this is the type of stuff we'd like to look for. That being said, so that's kind of the gist overall with the sectors. I'm going to quickly go and get some water, and then I'll be right back. Alrighty, now for the fun stuff, right? So the first thing, gold and silver, we did go over gold and silver. They aren't very close to any monthly reversals, but they got some weekly stuff coming back in next week, at least closer to doing that. We'd like to see them stop them out and then get going again. Prefer the buys in there, but short term, you got the sells. Sorry, I'm trying to find this scan in here. Ah, there we go. So for simplicity, we're going to start with the Dow Jones, which is where we normally suggest people start with their universes. And we're going to look at the inside month. So I want to get my list up in here. So I'm going to keep the list on my other screen over here. Actually, I can probably get this over here. So you see Boeing to start in the Dow. This is going to be taking last year's low, so relatively weak. And actually, this is the wrong scan. Gotta scan inside last month. So obviously Microsoft, we've already talked about it. But the inside month and the inside day, we go to Intel. This actually did go up, and it's kind of just down at the lows. If we get into these big time frames, you can see Intel just got wrecked in here. So the fact that it's already at the lows tells us it's weaker. Yes, I'd prefer to get something with a little more meat on the bone. Disney. And you see they're starting to chop them up inside of this range, so not the most interesting thing to me either. It does have long red and green bars, so could get it moving, but at best, you'd get that RevStrat quarter going. So above that, I would want to know about it. 99.74. And it, it's just chopping them up, so we'll wait. And that's really about it for the inside months in the Dow. If we go to the shooters, there will be HON, which is actually closer to 322 next week, but nowhere near going 2 up on the month. And this would add some earnings, which cause this big old wick here on the weekly chart. If we go to the daily, you see the big pukage off the lows. And then we had the inside PMG on Friday, which is actually on our list. Now into next week, it's closer to 322 up, but it's going to be a big old inside month. If we go to any hammers in the Dow, which I imagine we're not going to have many, if any, 0. And then 2 up and red to start the new the new month with the Dow. You'll see cat in here. So notice poke down, poke up, which gives you the big try after this 3 in here. So 3 and poke down, poke up, closer to 2-2 back down, but still a 1. And no weekly stuff. Looks like it's going to go inside week next week. It does have a RevStrat day if they're going to start moving, but We'd have to take this stuff out. 36698 to get me interested. McDonald's, obviously, with the E. coli stuff, they bring it back in a bit, and this one's been a pretty nasty try this whole year. You see up, down, hammer, up, 2 up in red, down, inside bar, rev strat, up, 2 up in red. You can see reclaiming some of this stuff in here, so closer to a 2-2 back down. And it did go 3-2 down and reclaim a little bit last week, but you can see it also be closer to a rev strat. So cat, and then McDonald's. Both have some daily rev strats for Monday if things were to weaken up. Home Depot. And this is with Lowe's simultaneously. And we got to get more years than that. So you can see Home Depot on the month. We get and we can use levels of reclaim here. You can see slight poke up and then back in. You have the sub-try in here on the month as well that we're also back into. So Home Depot and Lowe's both have potential shooter months down. No weekly signals or anything, but they're puking. And then shooter day for Monday. Lowe's. You see the 1-2-2 day for Monday as well. If we go to the month, you'll see the shooter. So bringing them back in potentially. They have been leading this year, so they got to stay down. Last month's lows below that. But you'll notice the slight poke up, and then this would reclaim both of these highs in here, start bringing it back. And you've got much bigger try down in this stuff. Down here, you see poke up, poke down, poke up, poke down, poke up, higher low, makes the higher high. Now they'd potentially come back through all of that. And then AXP, slight shooter on the month at all-time highs, inside week. And then nothing on the daily. So it is all-time highs exhaustion risk. We'll keep an eye on that. It's been pretty strong this year. IBM. Also another pretty strong one this year. And you can see this crazy move. Right back into all-time highs. Notice back through all this previous range. That's where you get this really nice price action. And now the range has gotten a lot bigger. So we might have to go to the quarter to see this better. And this is part of the technology sector. But you can see 2 up in red quarter. So it changes continuity, starts reclaiming some of this below 206.28. Now, what you'll notice is it's really green on the year still, so it's not our favorite. We'd want things that are red on the year, but it's within the Dow, and it's going to be closer to a 2-2 month back down next month. And if it hits magnitude, it would start reclaiming some of this stuff on the left as well. And then we obviously got Apple. Checking to see if we have any 2 diamond greens. I doubt it. Doesn't look like we do. All right. So that's the Dow Jones. And, you know, obviously a lot more potential 2-2 down, which is something we'll want to know about. The other thing we can take a look at is like who was going down already last month. Tell us some of that weakness. So you can see the Dow 3, 2 down, 2 down again. And if we go to the year, you see it looks like a near miss in here. So you got the sub-try internal to this range, but they're going to be weaker, closer. You see 2 down on the year and it's red on the year, closer, taking out bottom of the yearly try. And on a bigger time frame, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, years or 7 quarters. Let me go to the yearly, my bad. Yeah, so closer to a 312 year down. And it looks like that's max available in here. So they have this bigger try, the 3, 1, then it'd be 312 below this, 47.26. You can see if we go to the week in here. Here's your big old weekly try. So they had the 3 last month, inside a week, down, takes it to the bottom of that 3. And now you'd have to get out of the bottom of that to trigger the yearly 312, but it is much weaker. Nike, which doesn't have anything for next week, but if we go to the year, Nike is inside year down at this point, so that's having some problems. If the Dow starts puking, this is the stuff we expect to really follow through because they're already going down. And then obviously Coke, we already talked about that. Like Procter & Gamble with Coca-Cola also having a little bit of issues up in there. Verizon inside week for next week would be back through previous range. And you'll see Verizon, it did take the year up, but you got your big old monthly try in here. Poke down, poke up, and then slight high reclaim. So wouldn't be a bad one, especially for the small account guys. You can see we're reclaiming a 3, reclaiming a 1 in there. And then 38.56 is what we'd want to see. So the shooter week next week below this, 41.12. We would get some PMG down into this stuff below that. And it'd be momentum confirming the 2 downs of last week. And it would confirm last month's 2-2 reversal. And if we zoom it out here on the weekly, just to give you a little bit of a better view, you see you got the slight higher highs, the slight lower lows, then chop them up, poke down, poke up, poke down, poke up, bigger try, and then momentum shooter here tells you down there. And the try, you could go a lot further, given continuity. But I'm going to start keeping a list here for the stars of what I want to be trading next week myself. And the cool thing with this is normally on Verizon, the momentum or the moves, very, very small. So when we're looking at this, like a 40 or 41 put with a couple weeks of time, or even like a month of time, probably relatively cheap. It's like beginning of December, the 40 put is trading at 47 cents. So, you know, if it's going to 37, then that 40 put goes to $3, right? So you can get some pretty big gains in there. Even trading monthly, so you can get many hundreds of percents. So that's something I like to know about. If we go to I'm gonna go to the weekly to make sure we're not missing any weekly hammers or anything. Really, the only one is HON in there, which should be the 322 back up. So, you know, maybe it's an inside month, so I'm just not going to touch it. Now we can switch over to the Nasdaq 100. We can do the same thing and take a look. Starting with the inside months. I have a few in here. Starbucks. Starbucks really gunning back through previous range. This would be considered natural buying, but it has to stay up there. That's the biggest thing. And for now, it's not. If we zoom it out a little bit, so you can see they had the try in here, the 3, 1, 2 reversal, the 212 continuation, gap down. And then they failed to make the new lows. So they're still internal to this stuff. So Starbucks above this stuff, 9954, you'd be looking 107.73. When we go to the quarter, you see it's just confirming last quarter's rev strat 3122. So it's going to be relatively strong in there if the market starts firming back up with the monthly signals. Dollar Tree. Oh, they got really wrecked in here, and you can see the triangles, how they're playing out. You see the initial poke down, the poke up, then they got chopped inside here, and then more chopped inside, then poke up, poke down, and some more chopping around inside here, poke down, poke up, and they chopped around inside here, poke up, poke down, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, and then big poke down, reclaiming all this stuff finally. So we'd still prefer to actually take all that out. It has not done it yet, so I'll be patient on that. If we go to GEHC, looks like 1 penny higher, give or take. So slight higher highs to this stuff, slight lower lows to this stuff. Then inside month pivot machine gun. This is the stuff I like to trade. Now it's momentum shoot on the week slightly. It's got RevStrat PMG day to do it. So that's going to be under the star list. GEHC PMG week or day and month. And when looking at some of those like December 6th, the 85 put for the beginning of next month is trading like just about $2. The spreads there are not the best, but so be it sometimes. Just monthly magnitude put at 83, so those puts would be more than paid for if that works out. And then if they get the whole thing in here, then those 85 puts be worth, 10, which would be 5x, which is a 400% return. There we got Microsoft, Intel. Already talked about that. MU. So here's your 3-1. You got the 3-on-2 shooter. And you see that some weekly PMG last week, no weekly signals here. If we blow it up, though, this is one we've been talking about for a while with the short. We had that inside week down in here from the top, and you can see, so it's like, why does this work so well? Why does it puke from the weekend video list? Well, notice we're reclaiming. When that signal breaks, it's not just the signal that matters, it's what is it doing? Reclaim off the inside week, reclaims this 3, reclaims all these highs. That causes the problem, and then puke, right? Then they get micro triangle down here, lower low, higher high. And then all of this gets stuck inside, which is the inside month. And they went inside week down, getting that month moving. So the triangle looks like this. As you can see, poke down, poke up. Where's it going? Poke down. What would that do? Confirm the 2-2 quarter last quarter after stopping some guys out. So that's something we definitely want to know about. I'm going to throw that on the star list as well. And there is Charter, which is going to be probably inside week next week. It does have a gap shooter on the day if we zoom it back out. This is more of the gap list type stuff for the people trading that universe. But you can see it looks something like this. Which I know it's not like the cleanest, most beautiful looking thing in the world. But you'll see the lower lows, slight higher highs, all this stuff. Not too interested myself. WBD. Warner Bros. So you can see, well, the market's going 2 down 1. This is going 2 up 1, which shows some natural buying. Closer to a inside month up. And it is it coming off the bottom of this? I'm not 100% sure here. It's not quite taken out the lows here, but going and exhausting some momentum, which is interesting here. I'd personally rather just wait. It's like, does that start really going? And then we can go after it, because it's like... You got a pretty big broadening formation in here, right? And so, I don't need the first $10. I want the rest of that, though. So I'd rather wait on that. I don't like digging down in the trash, as some people would say. And EA Sports, it's in the game. Also showing some natural buying this month, this quarter. See, inside month and up, they're still chopping around within this stuff. So how are you getting out of that? And maybe daily momentum, but nothing that's too interesting to me. So on there, GEHC I definitely like, though. You can go take a look at the shooters last month. Fang Energies. You see, poke up, poke down, tries to get back into the range, gets rejected. Be closer to a 3-2 quarter expansion, which you can see that try we were just looking at is the 3, like so. So we drop it back down to the weekly, see like that. Now, no weekly signals or anything, but monthly shoot, which would confirm all the energy simultaneous shooters. And it has been, you know, a lot lower if things were to come back in. You can see we'd start reclaiming some of this triangle in here with that monthly shooter, so that could be some issues. Again, I'd still prefer to see energies up, but they're just not this month, right? Co-parts, so this is industrials as well, and this is what we're looking for. Here it is. So you see the 1 gets stuck inside, 3 broadening formation starts over, poke down, right? Then poke up. There's another 3 in here, another broadening formation. So it gets really small, and you'll see once they start getting much bigger, the poke up, and you see rev stratting coming back in. And then here's some sub try down in here. So they've already made the slight lower low. We'd prefer to see them triangle out before getting going again, but that's a good one as well. So you see on like a 60 try, they did poke up slightly in here and then might bring it back down, but we'd prefer to get the bigger triangle out, bigger move, and then get after it. But that shooter 322 month, that's something I like to know about. O'Reilly. So car parts, but commercial services is CPRT. And then O'Reilly is specialty retail XRT. O'Reilly. All right. So you can see it reclaiming all this broadening information back in here, which is what that monthly shooter looks like. 322 below this. They could have some problems. Obviously, it's a big stock, 113889. And normally on the bigger stocks, like if you get a lot of time, you're gonna be paying a lot of money and the spreads are not very good. But if you're playing, you know, during this month, if you get some daily signals or something to try and take this stuff out on like a Thursday or Friday, you can make a lot of money on that because you just need one $40 move and you make $4,000 on each option, right? Which is really easy once you start coming back through that stuff. So something I'd like to know about. It's just not for everyone. And if there's any questions or anything, we will be taking those shortly. Give me, you know, once we finish out the queues, we'll take a few of them and then we'll keep going. Or maybe once we get them all done. And XPI is another one in the chips. You're going to see potentially get some issues in here. Starts reclaiming all that stuff. So we kind of been chop, chop, chop. But once we start taking out these first lows in here is when things will speed up. And on the day, we'll see this. So you can see how they get stuck in here and just kill everybody, right? Poke up, poke down, poke up. Killed, right? Mother bar for like a week. Poke up and down in the same day. And then 3, 1, 3, 1, 2. See, they finally make the bottom of this one. Nice big broadening formation, then up, then 2, 2 back down, and then 2, 1, 2. They're going to try and follow through, or maybe some rev strats on Tuesday next week. And there is the weekly 3, 3, 2, 2 in NXPI. I like to look at that. Ooh, another good little PMG one, specifically for the small account guys. You'll see the monthly pivot machine gun, which is what we like to see, especially for like 0 DTE trading. All these guys get taken out one go. Plus the inside week shooter. No daily signal on like a 2-day chart of the 2-day shooter in there. But that's something we like to see. You can see PMG day to trigger PMG month to trigger inside week, which would cause outside RevStrat quarter. Yeah, this is what we're looking for. Yeah, all the signals lining up. So you can see RevStrat quarter, that's 1. The 2-2 month RevStrat would cause the RevStrat quarter. That's 2. Inside week, that would be 3. And then the day, you know, depending on doing an inside day or anything, that would be 4. And any of the 60 time frames next week, that'd be another 4 or 5, depending on if we have a daily signal or not. And then on the year, that's also RevStrat. So that's 5 before we even start trading next week. So that's something we want to know about right there, CSX. And they could have some really bad problems. We put an extra star on it. Teslers, everyone loves Tesla. Look at this, killed if you're trading this year. And it doesn't mean there's not big moves. You can see them in there, but you'll see the slight poke up. Closer to a 322, 246.51. You see the sub try on the weekly in here like this. So you'd be coming back through that. We go to the daily. We had some traders in stat trading this last week. And you'll see the easy poke up, 2-2 on a Tuesday, 2-1-2 add continuation, then 2 down continuation. Still working their way back to the gap. And on the month, you're just a 1, so good luck. AMAT, you can see another RevStrat monther. And outside week last week. Potentially a 2-2 day to start expanding that weekly. And then closer to a 3-2 quarter. So this is also something we'd like to know about with MU and NXPI. I'm going to start sorting these out now that we've got a list going. AMAT, also potentially the RevStrat monther below 22 or 220.68. Nowhere near taking last quarter's lows out, which makes it, you know, slightly less interesting. Still green on the year, but still actionable. And AVGO and ARM are gonna have even more in here. See AVGO, slight higher highs in here. They took the quarter up, then closer to a 2-2 month RevStrat quarter back down. The momentum shooter weak in here. You see the weekly try, poke up, poke down 3, poke up, slight higher low, poke up, reclaiming a lot of these highs in here. So that's a problem, right? We can add that in there. QCOM, and you can see it's like a lot of the semis in here. They're landing on our list of actionable signals. So it's definitely a sector we're going to want to know about. And you'll see QCOM in here, the 3, poke up, poke down, poke up, poke down, ideally. Go to the month, closer to the 1-2 month, take last quarter's lows. They did start off inside day, so you got some daily try in here. Still, you know, a little closer, taking the lows out. 3 on the week, just like many other things in the tag. And then Meta and EXC are the last ones in here. Meta, 2 up and red on the week. Shooter on the month. And you can see Meta 3. 3 again. 2 up, 2 up, 2 up. Potentially start coming back through that. We don't really see a lower low in here to draw off of unless we get to the weeklies. And you'll see this in here. So you get this big 3. So you can see this was the initial one in here. And you see it's still acting kind of as resistance as at this point, and then you can see the sub try in here as well. something like this. So we start reclaiming that stuff, we might have some problems, right? With the 2-2 week next week, it's closer to doing that. We'll see. EXC killed. You see the inside week down from the top of the weekly try last week, murdered, causes the 2-2 month. With the new month open, gets even more murdered. And then on the monthly try, we blow it up just a little bit more. It's not my favorite one to trade, but you can see 2-2 month, where's it going? Trying to go down there. So a little bit more. It's only $4, which is why it's not my favorite one to trade, but it is moving into XLU utilities, which I think was one we actually missed in the macro. That was on me. But in utilities, this is something we want to know about. We talked about the utilities buy on the quarterly PMG at the beginning of the year. It was a great teaching moment in the strat boot camp as well. But now we're going to get the utilities potential sell, the 2-2 month back down. Obviously, we're not reversing the yearly 2-2 or anything. So if you're a bigger position trader, you'll just want to know about that to reduce. And you'll see the inside quarter PMG we mentioned at the very beginning of 2024. Boom, inside reversal. And you'll notice the try. Once that starts breaking or setting up the inside quarter, you draw right to left. So it looks something like this. You'll see the low, the lower low, actionable signal, and then higher high. Now they're 2 up red quarter, changing what we know to be true up here. So that's something we want to know about. Now we'll see if we have any hammer months in the Nasdaq. It's a bigger stock or bigger bucket of stocks, so there's a chance. We'll have to see. Doesn't look like we got any besides WBD. So still the only one we really see closer to hammers back up. And you know what we did not scan was the outside bars. I think we'll leave the outside bars just on the email list. That being said, I can show you what those look like. So when you scan for an outside bar, it's going to give you broadening formations to trade. It's like KLAC, for example, in the chips. This is going to show much weaker. So like we can add this on here and we could say KLAC on the year closer to negating that, right? Which would be a big problem as we end off the year here for the yearly guys, closer to the quarter down. Then last month was a 3. So that is a broadening formation. Which means we can draw it out by scanning for that 3. And if it expands below this 654.3, then you get PMG, and that's a big problem, right? So when you scan for it, you're going to find this. The 3, the slight poke up, stop the tight stop guys out, and then 2-2 shooter counter hammer next week. That could cause them problems. If you go to the day, inside day would trigger the week. So you got day into week, into month, into quarter, right? So that'd be an example of well, we can look for it. I know that we're going to see a lot of chips on here, so it's kind of like, pick your favorite or find the ones that are breaking next week. Is normally what we're going to be doing. All right. Yeah, if there's any questions. So I've mentioned it a few times, but if you're looking for the email list, what you can do is check out learnthestrat.strat.alerts.com/learnstrat. And I'm not sure if he just, it doesn't look like it does. You gotta get /learnstrat in there. I might shorten this up and make it like /learn or something, make it a little easier, but that is where you're gonna find it. Is the 212 yearly Dixie thesis? Well, it's not really a thesis. It's like we want to see a yearly signal, and it just hasn't done it this year. So that's what we're waiting for on Dixie. But if you have any questions, throw them in the chat. Yeah, but YouTube chat or in the community stream chat is where I'll be looking. I'm gonna rest my voice for a few minutes and wait. Call or put. If you're asking call or put, you gotta understand the strat. There's 3 universal truths. You know what signals are. That's how you get in. That's how you know where the stop goes. You know what continuity is. That's how you know how long you got. Broadening information. That's how you know where it's going. So you gotta understand the strat before you make trades. Because I should be able to tell you a ticker and say, hey, we're looking at monthly charts. You should be able to open it and know exactly what I'm thinking, because we all think the same thing. We all know what a 2-2 looks like. But I will have the macro video coming out, and I'll be mentioning, or I'll have that stuff in the video as far as like specific contracts I'm thinking. Crude oil. Crude oil has had a pretty big try as of recent, from my memory here. Crude, same shooter month as everything else. So if you go to crude in here, you can see that kind of, you gotta squint to see the try in here. Poke up, poke down. You can see poke down, poke up, poke down. So it'd be 2-2 reversal to get the try expando into this stuff. 63.58. You go on the week. It is inside week down. I believe this was last week. Yeah, it should be closed out right now. They're gonna open up in like 4 hours, but you see 3, 3, 3, 2, 2, 2, 1, 2. They're still trying to take this stuff out. It's just been a grind. On the day, you can see some. Sorry, I'm gonna drink some water. You can see some triangle out, so it'd be closer to pivot machine gun down to start the new week. question earlier. I did not delete questions. Bitcoin? Yeah. The Bitcoin. So we did get the new month, which does matter. Something we want to know. So Bitcoin, here's your try from the quarter. Something we've been watching for a while, right? Poke up, rev strat, back down, rev strat at the lows, or actually no, counter hammer at the lows, and back up with the yearly inside signal. Now we have the 122 quarter, which means it got till 2025. You'll see the month goes into the recent highs, and then the new month opens. So each month will confirm or negate the quarter. So right now, since it's red, it's bringing it back in a little bit. When we go to the week, shooter last week. So if it's going to be a buy, we'd want to see the shooter and then hammer against that to come back up for a 222. And they're probably going to end up 2 down next week, which reclaims a lot of this stuff. So want to be aware of that. Is it's going to change what's happening. They did not make all-time highs, right? Which we still would like to see, but this is going to change what we know to be true with the shooter against, if that goes in force. If it doesn't, then still good, and things are still staying up. But yeah, we're going to need new weekly stuff to get up there. Or at minimum, like, you need a daily signal, right, to get stuff moving. So we'll have to see. And if they go trigger the quarter up, stop these guys out, and then go up, that'd be like textbook. That's what we'd want to see. But we'll have to let them open next week. How to manage for like retirement account, higher time frames. Really, you're trading with the continuity at that point, because what the continuity tells you is like, are they buying or selling it this year? And then the signals will tell you, like, is it going to start exploding, right? Because when you have signals, then you can expect movement. If you don't, doesn't mean you can't expect movement. It just means you got to see that continuity stay green. But when it comes down to it, those scenarios plus the continuity is what you're looking for if you're going for bigger stuff. So like SPY, whenever the year goes red, that's when you hedge, right? When the year is green, that's when you get back in. And it's, if you're trading these indexes, which are designed to go straight up for the most part, that's the plan for bigger time frame stuff. And you can bring it down into like the quarter if you're going to manage against that and do the same thing. It's like quarter red, you hedge, right? Hedge, then starts reclaiming back in, you get more. Hedge, brings it down in, potential 3, you get more, right? It's a matter of how often you want to do that. What is your frequency? But if the market's going to crash, we can simply go back to when it has crashed, and then we'll know exactly how that looks. Yeah, SPX. It's like, well, we bring it back in 2008. It's like change in yearly continuity, 2 year. Yeah, hedge, boom, reclaim, buy more, right? Same thing down in 2000s, reclaim 2 reversal, hedge, inside back up, buy more. And same thing in here, hedge, buy more. So that would be the game plan. So like when we're looking at this year, does not mean we can't close out a shooter year, right? It's going to depend on the new quarter, the new month. At this point, the quarter is 2 up and red. So we'd be thinking, hedge. And if we go 2 month down, then you could, play directionally short, which is what we're talking about for the shorter term stuff. And then with sector rotation, so like let's say everything's taken last month's lows, we can scan and say, okay, well, the market, let's say it's puking, it's down into this stuff, 5,400. Well, normally when you get big news events, that's when like the big positioning is going to occur. So if that starts happening, we want to go and look at the things that are not doing that. We want the things taking last quarter's, last month's highs. And that's where you'd want to rotate your money into. So like in 2022, when SPY was doing this, 2 up and red on the year, shorts were all in taking last year's lows, which is going to be ARK in 2022. 322, boom, there's your short. 2022, right to its target, right? And then it's done. The longs are going to be taking last year's highs in 2022. So in 2022, XLEs, boom, inside up. So you buy energies, you sell out the small cappers, pretty much the ARK names, like Kathy Woods just got cremated. And that would be the trade in 2022. And then this year, or if we go to semis, so you see semis did the same thing, right? Went 2 up, I believe, yeah, and red. So they went 3 on the year. That's a broadening formation. And then once they start opening new year 2023, changing that yearly continuity, now beginning of the year, who's taking last quarter's highs, which since the market firmed up all at once, this was doing that. And you can see 2-2 quarter in 2023. And then you go after the ones taking last year's highs, because those are going to be the strongest, which you can see it takes a couple quarters to get up there. Go to NVIDIA, for example, and it takes 2 quarters and then takes last year's highs. That's where the strength was, because they were the first ones to start doing that. You go to the other chips. In 2020, you can see ASML. So this one took a little longer, goes up, and it's like the first one coming back in. Right? You go to TSM. This one did not do that. You can see as laggard, right? 2023, not taking previous year's highs. And then 2024 opens inside year up, and then they start blasting off. So we're using those scenarios to say, well, the whole market's going down. Who's reversing that? Who's changing that? And then you can also ask yourselves, like, who did not go down? So if everything went outside year in 2022, who was 2 up when that happened would be a good question to ask, right? And off the top of my head, I don't have a list of those names. So to say here, I'm trying to think. Not sure if the Bitcoiners were doing that. Nope, they were also coming in with the ARK stuff. Yeah, off the top of my head, I don't have the list for things that did not reverse. We could do some scans for it, but I don't want to get too hung up on it. But hopefully that makes sense. Airbnb. So Airbnb, especially, with the Florida stuff going on, you can see 2-1, 2 up, reclaim on the year. So we're thinking down there, 84.3. It is doji year, so they're not that strong on the sell side. You can see this month, they're still chopping them up. So we've got 139.78 to take out, and then we'll have to see what happens from there. So they're starting to chop them sideways in here, getting really small ranges. And you go to the quarter, there's, chopping them up in here. So not too much we can talk about, not too much. Walmart. That would be a good example. Yeah, so you can see in 2022, Walmart, one of the first ones taking out last year's highs, which it didn't go right in 2022, but then they follow through with it. It's not a bad looker. You can see the broadening formation in here. It took them a while to get out of it, but 3-1, 2, 3-2 reversal, and then expansion, which is this year. KBWP, yeah. So 2022, this was green, taking last year's highs, yeah. Relative strength, and you can say follow it through. But a few examples there from people in the chat. When you swing, well, the thing you have to understand is when you swing, if you're looking at the day, week, month, and 60, the day and 60 reset every day. So you're constantly going to have exhaustion risk that you're swinging through. Because the day is not enforced overnight. The 60 is not enforced overnight. And they reset right at the new open. So it's going to be more difficult. Not saying that's impossible. It's just more difficult. But what you want to do is you want those big broadening formations, because we just want the ones where we get in and then it goes and then keeps going, right? With the swings, not always are you going to have that. If we go to like DE would be a good example of what we want to see. So like, for example, DE. So you can see the big old monthly try in here, poke up, poke down, 3, poke down, reclaim, then 3-2-2 in here going up there, which it did. When we go down into that, what you'll notice is the first week of the month, they go up. So they bought it, then they bring it back in. And then it goes 2 down in green. And this tells you right in here, they're coming back to buy more, although not the strongest thing because it took out last week's lows. They bought the first week, got countered, tried to sell it down, and they're failing. So the buyers are back, right? So this type of stuff, you just have to be aware that happens. Triangles will occur, which is why we say, like, we don't want to be that first guy in every time, or in general, because you can be the first one, and you can see right at the beginning of the month, they take the month up, then they stop some guys out, and you'll see they poke up, poke down. Here's your compound 3. And then once this starts breaking in here, we can go after that, and we would manage against that reversal day against. So they go 2, 2, 2, 2, short-term exhaustion risk. We don't know that. Goes up, right? And then it stays above that. Good. And that's a good all month. So you can see they slight triangle out, back up, slight triangle out, back up. Then you'll notice the new month opens, changes what you know. 3, 1, 2 to the downside, and they start bringing it in, taking their profit, and then they chop them up sideways. So we just want to understand that when we're swinging, there will be micro triangle outs, especially if you're trading the quarter, the year signals. Like, it's not just straight up instantly. It's normally going to take a little bit. But the ones that start breaking and staying out of that, we want to reconfirm. So like, if we go into DE down here, this is one from a nightly vid a while ago. You'll see it pukes into the bottom of the try and then inside day. So if we're swingers, well, we have a whole try to get through. It's gonna take more than one day to get up there, right? So this inside day breaks, we can manage our risk against the low of that, take it. And now that's gone off to the races right away. That's where we, put our stop even and just say, like, that's got to stay up, because we don't want to see them coming back into this range. We want to see it reclaim all this stuff and then go to the other side. The problem you're going to get is people will want to take this signal and then put their stop really wide just to make sure they don't get out. Whereas in an ideal world, what you're going to do is you might have, like, let's say, for example, you're going to look for this same setup. I'm going to try my best to make this look right in here. You're looking for this, right? Triangle, down, up, down, actionable signal. The ideal world is you have like 3 of these, right? Across different sectors or different tickers, but everything should look something like this, where you make the low and then you're coming back through it. And then you take them all, right? And then if they come back, get your money out of the one that's not working. There's no reason to stay there. But then if it looks like this, where you take the signal, it goes boom. It's like, okay, I'm going to add to that one. Why? Because that tells you the buyers are here and we already know where it's going. Here's your triangle, right? Draw it, boom, boom. So it's going up there as long as that doesn't reverse, which means as long as it's a 2-up day, we can buy more, buy more, buy more. And then the big ones, they're going to look something like this. You can see slight triangle out, right? And then they reclaim. That's where we can buy more, which they went 2 up, slight 2 down, but then 3, they're still going up. And you see they bring it back in a little bit, flip it green, up, in, green, and then the highs, and then you get out. And this is because if you're in here, for example, so you're a 2-2 day and maybe you have a big weekly try, which I believe there was. 2-2 day, you get in here, awesome. Here's your daily magnitude, takes it out. Gap up, starts bringing it back in. That's a problem, right? You don't want to just sit here and keep your stop at the low and say, oh, like, it should go up there, which you can do it. I'm not saying you can't, but now you're sitting in this stock for weeks, right? Where it goes sideways. Whereas if you get into the things at the bottom and top of the ranges, you'll know, like, it will look like this when it's gunning back through, which it does, right? But then it starts coming back in. Now it doesn't look good at all. It's doing nothing. 3, poke down, lower high, poke down, poke. It takes a while, right? Doji, 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 doji. Take this, then it works, and you're in. You're not in a losing position. You bought it down in here. It's up $10. Like, everyone's smiling, laughing, having a good time, right? As long as it stays that way, you're good. So we don't want to take, like, okay, 2-2 day, I get short. All right, looks good. Gaps up into us, exit. Just get out. 2-2 again. We could hit it short again, right? And then it starts coming back up. Exit. Take our money and leave. Now, when we get the one down in here, 3-2, any of this stuff where it's like hit it, 2 down, and then it goes green to red, down, right? It's like we can stay in that. It's not strategize. It's just you need follow through. Like, we don't want to get in here on swing trades and just have things that like go like this. Like, if you get in and it's like it's like, get out of it. Go find something that's not doing that, because there is things not doing that. You're just using your money incorrectly at that point, because you're buying things that aren't doing what you're looking for. Whereas if you buy stuff, it instantly does what you're looking for. You're like, okay, I know where it's going, and then it goes. Right? And what Rob would say is, like, you don't have to be the first guy in here. You can just watch it. And it's like, okay, inside day up. Okay, now they're gunning. It's like, how did I trade DE? Well, we saw that happen. It was on the nightly vid. I didn't get to catch it. There's some stat guys that got it. But then it goes hammer week. It's like, okay, I'll just take that. Then boom, blast off, makes my money, get out. And it was like a couple $1,000. Right? And then the other form of that is like, okay, 2 down week doing nothing, right? 2-2, now it starts moving. And then in here, grab the 60s and stuff. Then it starts going up in here and closes out, break even. And if it's going to go up there, we're already in. There's no sweating it. Yeah. And then when it comes to like the big like monthly broadening formations and stuff, what you're going to want to do, like if you are like, let's say we go to the list that we got up in here. So let's say we're looking at CSX. It's like, okay, I really want to trade that, right? If that goes inside, let's say we go, it's like if that goes 2 down on Monday, I can just short it there. I can put my stop against a reversal here to start on Monday. So I just short it, put my stop here. Because I'm not going in there with like $1 million, I can do that, right? I can just risk some of my money, not much of it, smaller position size. Okay, sell it. And then if it takes the week down, I can hit it there too, put my stop to the high of the week or the weekly open. And then if Tuesday comes and then they start selling it on Tuesday, I can add to it. And then when that occurs, it will take the month and I can buy more. And then at that point, as long as it does not reclaim 3284, I have no reason to get out of it, right? So like we're looking for like this will trigger month, and then now it's puking because the month setup looks really good to get a PMG, and then we're in. And if we wanted to, we could go even crazier and start adding on the 60s after short-term triangle outs. The biggest thing is just if we hit the daily and then it goes 2-2 on Tuesday, I don't want to stay in it. There's just no reason to. Because there's things that sold on Monday and are getting sold on Tuesday, which are way better shorts at that point, right? Or there's like 2-2 reversals on a Tuesday that are into full time frame continuity back through a previous range at that point. Rather put my money in either of those two things than put it into the inside month that's not following through, that's doing nothing, you know? I'll have to pull up Trading View here. Cub. Not bad. Wasn't all of it in one day. Let's see a slight lower low. Kicking pattern at the bottom of an uptrend with a pivot or a downtrend with a PMG. That's exactly what you're looking for. And then boom, higher high. Good. If we go to Mariko. This was not a kicking pattern because there's no kicker in here. Do you see the difference? Kicker opens at the highs, closes at the lows, bottom of a downtrend, kicking right above that stuff, right? And then inside up, 2-2 takes it out. Versus Mariko, not a kicker, right? That's an inside day with a doji, not doing it. It did go inside up, right? Which it could have got going. It did a little bit, but not a kicker in the same sense. Like I want to show you, I post them all the time. If we go to Glue, this is a kicker, right? Opens here, closes at the lows, gaps above that. This is a weekly one. And then you get it back through a previous range. Look at this. Boom. Explosion. Right? That's what you're looking for. If we go to, I have this notion. I don't want to. Yeah, here it is. So this is what we're looking for. Back through a previous range. We want a gap and then trap shorts. This needs to be a bright red 2 down bar. In an ideal world, this would actually be taking this low out. It just wasn't in this case. And this is a bearish kicker. Look at closing out at the highs, right? These 2 days, they're just going straight up the gap. Back through this previous range. Right here, we just hit it short and then down they go. You got some more examples. Netflix. So in this case, it was not back through previous range. It goes triangle expansion, but it's the same thing. Kicking pattern. It did have a slight wick down here, but all these guys in here had a problem. right at the open, then boom, expansion of the try. I don't think I have any other examples, but you need that bright red bar. SPX, yeah, we already talked about it. You go to SPX on the month, here's your compound 3, these 2 bars outside of these 2 bars. So 2-2 month, you'd be coming back through all these guys. Go to the week, looks like that. Poke up, poke down, poke up. Could have some problems, right? Not saying it has to go down there, but if they start bringing them back in, that's where it's trying to go. Good. Yeah, the kickers, the biggest thing with the kickers is you must go back through a previous range. If it opens at the higher lows, like LRN was an example. So like, you can see it's like, okay, was it a kicker yesterday? No, but all these shorts in here, you had some big problems, right? So when it opens up there, since it's not into the new high yet, right, we can go after it here, and then you wait. So in this case, in the morning, we wanted to try and get longs in here. And you can see they went fiver. They did not go 2 up again. They just went inside down, so they didn't confirm this stuff. Did not take the morning lows out. So I actually had a small position I had, and I just had my stop here. But later in the day, you'll see the 60 right here. This gets its moving. Buy. Right? And then up to the highs they go, and then I just held it. And then you can see in here, we had the triangle layout, buy more. Triangle. 2-2, it's not a kicking pattern. You could say it's a kicking variation, but pivot machine gun through these guys right there. You hit it more, right? And then we're maybe going to get another one in here. We'll see. You see at this point, this is acting as support, which is what we're looking for. It's going to line up with the bigger try, which is going to look something like this. So this will act as support if this one acts as support in here, which is what we'd be looking at. Now for next week, no signals or anything, but hopefully you can see how that works. And if we go to like Netflix, you can see how that works, right? So they go into the highs, right? So prefer not to buy that. When it goes red to green, though, we can go after it there. But you just have to have a tight stop at low a day, which is pretty much nothing at that point. So $1, right? And when it moves, it goes 27. So it's pretty good. SCHD just looks like the SPY. Yeah, 2 up, nowhere near reversal year. Could be a 2-2 month next month with the SPY and stuff. Poke up, poke down, poke up. But we'll have to see. All right. That being said, though, let's I mean, the SP 500 is gonna be a lot of stocks. There's a lot of outside months in here. You see SMCI. Do you see that rev strat in here? Yeah, we knew about that, didn't we? Called the top. Now, it's been a lot lower, right? And they might get delisted even. So this 3-2 month this month with the chips, not going to help the semis. You see also 3 last week. Gap down, momentum shoot, gap down, just down they go. Oh, there was one thing I wanted to add. So talking about managing like bigger positions, one thing you can use is inside bars. And this is something, it was gonna be a lesson I was gonna send out on what's it called, on the email list, but I did not. But the inside bars are really cool because they tell you they agree on prices here. Like, so buyers and sellers agree on price here when it gaps down on SMCI. We can also see they agree on prices here, right? So let's say you take this inside bar or you take a signal, you can manage your risk using this inside bar. You can say, well, as long as it's below that, sellers still have the control of this, right? You can see they did retest it, but you can use that because what you'll notice is the equilibriums will move up and down. During higher volatilities, when those are more important though. In lower volatility, they can show lack of interest, and that's where it's going to take out both sides over and over and over, which gives you the broadening formations, right? But you can use those as like areas to manage risk too. I don't have a specific example, but there's definitely multiple ways to use that stuff. Like if we go to the month in here, you're going to see it pretty clear. So during high volatility, these inside bars turn into explosions, right? Inside and up, they agree on prices there. And then you can see they agreed on prices here. And then what are they doing? They're trading below that. So now the sellers are in control and down they go, which is what that quarterly inside quarter did, right? So we'll also see if like NVIDIA, go to the monthly on NVIDIA, what started the rally back in here? The inside month up at the beginning of 2024, then 222 up they go. And then here's a new inside month. So this is your next equilibrium. So are they going to be above that, or would they reclaim that would be your question. All right, you'll see this on everything. TSM, when it had its explosion, you'll see the double inside quarter down in here. So notice they agreed on prices here, then broadening formation, right? Is this low volatility, got stuck inside. Poke up, poke down, poke up, poke down, boom, sellers hit it, right? And if we're looking even further back, you got some more equilibriums down here, but you can see they agreed, then up they go, they agreed, down they go, they agreed, up they go, right? So these equilibriums, they're going to act as places where they agree on prices. So you can use that not as like, okay, I'm going to buy this and put my stop down here. No. But you can use that on smaller time frames to say, well, if we're above or below that, even if it's, you can see, so this equilibrium, this is 3 months later, or actually 9 months later, right? But now they're below it. And that's a 3-2 expansion. So this equilibrium, those buyers who tried to buy it up, they're getting killed. Right? Anyone that's long in this stuff, now the sellers, think it should go lower. They're trading below where those prices were agreed upon. So you can use those as, more important areas with the equilibriums telling you that stuff. And if we go and take a look, you're going to see once that quarter starts going, the buyers and sellers agreed on prices here on the week, and then they exploded. Then you'll see again, they agree on prices here. And then you get the rev strat and they explode again. And then the equilibrium higher again. And they bring the lows out, but reclaim it, right? So they're going to the other side, and then they do. You're going to see it over and over. And the last equilibrium in here was recently. So you can see the week up in here, they agreed, and then they start bringing it back in a little bit. But something you could backtest if you want to mess around with it. Really what you're identifying is the broadening formation on that lower time frame that's starting and then expanding, or getting bigger, bigger, bigger until it expands and keeps going. Yep, reclaiming a 1. Yep. Well, because the thing is, when you reclaim a range, you are reclaiming a 3 every time. Has to. Because price never has no broadening formations occurring. Always. When things are really racing, it's like NVIDIA, when it's like really gunning in here in the month. We'll bring it back one more bar. So at the beginning of the year, when it's really gunning in here, those 3s are occurring on lower time frames because the speed of aggregation is very high, right? So when we take a look, it's like it's really gunning. You'll see you get the much smaller price discoveries, but since it's really moving, you have an expectation that since there is full time frame continuity, this is going to go a lot further because the buyers are way more aggressive. You're going to see that over and over. And you see really sub triangles in here. You get a slightly bigger one in this stuff. And then boom, expansion into all-time highs, but really aggressive buyers, and then all the way up. You're going to see it over and over. So it's like, if this is a 1 and we reclaim it, we're also reclaiming the mother bar, which is a 3. Right? So you can see poke up, poke down, stuck inside. Reclaims a 1, that's also reclaiming this 3. This is all scenario 1 stuck into this, right? So you're constantly going from taking out both sides of the range to starting that over, taking out both sides of the range smaller, which is the inside bar, to taking out both sides of the range much bigger, to smaller to bigger. It's just expanding and contracting. So you see it contracts. No new highs, no new lows, stuck, killed. Lower low, right? And in this case, it's gapping on earnings, but lower low, higher high takes out both sides, then contracts really small. Then it's going to do it over and over. Yeah. Relative strength is really easy. The week, last week, SPY was a 2 down. Anything inside week stronger has to be. It did not take last week's lows. Anything 2 up week, that's relative strength for sure, because it was going up while the whole market puked. Right. So if we were to scan and just say who took out last week's and last month's highs in the SPY, which we can, we just scan 2 up this month in the SPY. It's not going to be many things, about 22, but these will be the relatively strong ones. So you can see like ABT, relatively stronger, right? 3-2 up, but it is red this month. So we'll see it's a gap around earnings. WAT also on earnings. You see kicking pattern on the month. So these are where the buying is occurring. And you can see how this is potentially triangle expansion. This stuff. But whereas SPY is inside month, all these have to be stronger because they're not. They're going 2 up. It's like MCK. Not McCormick, but McKesson. It's like, here's natural buying, right? Everything in SPY not going up, this is. So if the market were to firm up, this will explode. If it doesn't, they're still buying this, so it could get going, right? You see an outside week last week. And you'll notice, so like the whole market, Tuesday or Thursday, 2 down, whole market, Friday, 2 down or inside, this one's 2 up. But they're buying it. They have to be. Then they do. Sometimes the data can be wrong because we do not have $1 million data provider, as there has not been much interest in the site. Oof, day, look at that. They're gunning to start the month. You can see the 2-2 quarter, boom, triangle, and the year outside. It's a pretty nutty looking one. That's all they got. I don't currently have the numbers. Tom, do you know how many people we have on the site? I don't know. I haven't looked at them in a while. But data can range between like a couple $100 a month to like thousands a month. We're currently on the lower end of things. Wow. I wish Day was on the gap list. Look at this thing. It's just crazy good. Poke down, poke down. And this is me. I'm just going through looking at the 2s up and 2s down to start the month based on ATR. And this is in the SPY. Never traded PSA. Let's see. Ooh, those spreads are nasty. Conflicted. Bottom or top of the broadening formation, really. Let's take a look at the futes. And you actually won't have a 30 signal that's conflicted. It's not possible. Because if you have a 2230 on the second 30 of the 60, it will be a green 60. If you're saying conflicted with the scenarios, well, how much continuity do you have for that scenario 60 to go 3? Do you have full time frame continuity? Do you have just the day? Do you have just the weekend day? What do you have? That tells you how much evidence you have it should work. For example, if we go to SPY in here, when this goes 222, you'll notice it occurs where? At the top of the broadening formation, so we can take that back through previous range. Goes 2 down, right? This is at 11. So right before the 60 flip, what does that set up? It's like that sets up the 60, right? So it's a shooter counter hammer. That's a momentum signal on the 60 minute, which means it should just go. When that occurs, the week is red. So we have the bigger move in our favor this week. When that occurs, the month was still green. So the week was conflicted with the month. When that occurred, the day was still green, but where did it occur? The top of a 3. So that's a 2260 to reclaim a 3 on the day. That's something we look for because that will cause compound 3 or outside bar. So notice 2 up in red. That's a potential 3. Just ran out of time. And then 2, boom. These 2 bars go outside of this outside day. So you go inside stuck, poke down, poke up, poke down. Right? So when we go and look at the 30 in there, this 2230 caused that. And when we go to the 15, doji at high a day caused us to reclaim this scenario 3 on the 15er. So we were talking about this during the stream intraday. We said, here's your 3, right? Triangle out and then 3. Poke up. That's a 15 at the top of the sub try of the 15ers. It's also the top of the daily try because we're at the high of yesterday's outside day. It's the top of the 60 try because we're at the high of yesterday's outside day, which is a 60 broadening formation. So when this goes 2-2, where's it going? Down there. And then 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, slight triangle day out. And then 2 go 3, 3, 2, 1, 2 on 2 reversal. And then they get stuck inside of it. And then 2 on 2 reversal down. 2, 1, 2, 2. And you could see just run slightly out of time to take this stuff out. But where's that trying to go? other side of that daily try, which actually, we draw it right to left, you'll see slight higher highs, slight lower lows. You'll see poke up, poke down, temps, or slight poke up, and higher low, but slight lower lows to this stuff, slight higher highs, reclaim, boom, bigger try. Then on Friday, it was inside day, which makes it more difficult. So we weren't really doing too much on Friday. But what you're looking for on the 60 is exactly this. You want to see them poke up and then reclaim, either changing continuity or with full time frame continuity, then go back to the other side. And you want to do it on big broadening formations. Because if they're very small, they're not going to move very much. We blow this up a little bit. So you can see in here, when it goes 2-2, you got poke up, poke down. Maybe it makes a new high to that, but this try just got a lot smaller, right? And then poke up, and you can see now it gets a little bigger. 3-1-2 off the highs, right? Gap down, but outside bar momentum shooter. That's a 3-2 reversal shooter pattern. That's what we're looking for. And then instantly it goes, boom, takes it out. And that was it, right? Finishes off the try. And you can see they get chopped inside again. Then lower low. 2-2 reversal, so they start firming it up. 2-1-2, where's this trying to go? Technically up in here. And you'll see they rally it up. All these bars here did not go outside of that. They went outside of this stuff. So 2-1-2, 2, change in 60 continuity, and then we redraw right to left. Now this is the 60 try. And then they open the day Rev Strat 60 down, which is continuation into the lows at this point. But then they reconfirm it. Now they're outside of this try right here. Then you can see they retested intraday and then puke. And then they firm it back up and we'd redraw, or we could leave it drawn like this since it was outside of it. So if we go back, you'll see when it retests on the 60, poke up, 2-2 reversal 15, hit it. There's also a 2-2 in here, hit it. Then the 2-2 at low data start covering. And you'll notice this occurs at 1330, which is the new 60 open. So change in 60 continuity, and then they start bringing it back into the previous range. Then they have a slight 3, triangle out, and then back up. Then you'll see they restart. Poke down, poke up, poke down, poke up. Then they restart again. Poke down, poke up, poke down. And get stuck inside. This is all Monday, Tuesday, then the bigger try. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So if you're going to play the 30s, it's like, this is what you want to play in here. This is a chop shop, right? Could you have tried any of this stuff? You could have, right? It just doesn't work. And they get stuck inside. So you don't want to trade this stuff. Then you'll see the penny lower low plus a rev strat 3-1-2-2. That's what we're looking for. Then it goes momentum hammer, still rev strat, right? And then boom, and then you get it off to the races. Problem is if you're stuck in this stuff, you're gonna kill yourself in there. And these indexes, like, you know, it's not that they're hard to trade, it's just they got smaller tries more often. Like you can see, they range a lot. Chop, 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 chop. But once they get much bigger, you see poke up, poke down. And then once this gap's up in here, it's like you draw this right to left, you know exactly what you're looking at. So poke up, poke down, gap up. You know when you're taking this stuff out. So they go up a little bit, momentum, stop some guys out. That's what you're waiting for. Inside bar PMG, then you hit it. Then up they go. And on the futures, you'll see this, the chop shops playing out more so. You can see it really tight in this stuff, and then nice poke down, poke up, 2-2 reversal, puke. And if you missed that, so be it. Here's your 2-1-2 30 right here. Hit that instead. Puke. And they get some expansion in here. Then since they were inside on Friday, you know, they go up there and then grind all the way back down. And how do you know if the try is getting bigger? Well, the bigger time frames will tell you that too. But that being said, as far as the macro goes, the stream, how long do we go for? Almost 2 hours. Yeah, I think that's going to call it quits here. I'm still going to be doing more scanning and stuff. If you're on the email list, again, if you go to learnthestrat.stratalerts.com/learnstrat, I'll be sending out some broad information stuff just with the outside months, who's outside month, what they look like, to show an example of kind of what Rob talks about in his short video that we put out on Friday. And if you haven't seen that video, go and watch it. It's pretty good in my opinion. I'm a little biased, but people seem to like it. So I'm going to see you guys bright and early for those that are in stat trading on Tuesday, and maybe even on Monday. I'll hop in there and be talking with Sarah to see what's moving, with a lot of inside days to go into Monday. So that is it from me here, and we'll have the nightly vid out, and premium guys, you'll get your watch list sometime later today. So adios, everybody. Have a great rest of your Sunday, and I'll see you guys as the week goes on.